Hey everybody, welcome back to Wrestling with Wrestling. It's not just a new day, it's a new year. And we're back from our holiday vacation to pick up where we left off to talk about all things wrestling and WWE. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble. We're going to talk about Raw. We're going to answer some of your questions. We're going to catch up on what we missed over the holidays. But first and foremost, let me welcome back my partner in crime, my co-host, the great Doc Gregory. Doc, how's it going, buddy?
It is going quite well. My holiday was what I expected it to be. I was a little bit, cheerier this year and trying to stay in a good frame of mind, and it was successful. So I enjoyed it. Got some great things. I mean, mostly because I got that really nice Christmas bonus from Boar's Head that I work for.
Yeah.
And I got myself a nice brand new bass guitar. I bought this little son of a bitch because I've been wanting it forever, man. It's like the complete collection of Gary Larson's Far Side comics.
Cool.
I mean that
That's
grew up
great.
on that stuff. To me, I am a lover of really short jokes. You don't need to draw into it. It's just right there, bam, hits you and makes you laugh really hard. Great comedians like Mitch Hedberg were great like that. Stephen Wright is great like that because they just keep coming at you, so you laugh through the whole show. And Gary Larson was also that kind of comedian. So I'm glad I finally got that. I had to drop $100 for it, but oops, dropped a lot more for the bass. But that's what you got to do when you bring the bass. You got to drop it.
That's right. It's all about that bass, I am told.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like they were both worth the money. Because I know I still kind of miss the Far Side. I was a huge Far Side fan. I mean, some of those things, it's amazing. Just like a one panel comic, and it could make me laugh so much that it would hurt. Like when you get those really weird jokes, it's like, oh my God, that's funny.
Did you have a Far Side T-shirt growing up?
No, I didn't. I
had the one with the cows in the car driving by the cow field, and in the cow field there was a lot of people. They were doing like grazing and all that stuff, and the cows were yelling out the window, yak 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 at the people in the field, and I love that.
Yeah, where I used to work back when I had a real job and I wasn't a YouTuber, we had a Far Side, one of those daily Far Side calendars, and that was almost like the best part of coming into work every day. Was getting to peel off the yesterday's page and see the next Far Side cartoon. They were awesome. So yeah, I had a pretty good holiday too. I got some cool stuff. I showed this to people already on Facebook, but I got my little Batman pop figure. I love him. And I got a bunch of other stuff too. It was really a good Christmas. I got an awesome new tripod for my camera, which is like, I've joked on Facebook, if I weren't married already, I would want to marry this tripod. It's like the coolest tripod ever. So you can tell where my head is at, but I'm like, I love this tripod. You can see that maybe, the YouTube channel is taking up a bit too much space in my emotional life. But something else that takes up a lot of space in my emotional life is professional wrestling. So here we are to talk about it. So before we talk about, I guess we can sort of do a quick catch up on what happened on Raw in the last couple of weeks and where we're headed, from this point forward. Do we have any questions, Doc, from Once Upon a Time, from our previous episode from last year?
Yeah, it's like that's the one thing I kind of forgot about. I was like, oh my God, as soon as you say questions like son of a bitch, there was something I needed to do.
We need to look at questions. I
3 weeks ago, I was like, none of these are pertinent to today's show.
I noticed a couple of I got a notification for a couple of them that seemed like they might be good ones. But I wasn't smart enough to save them or anything. So,
well, we got one about the Outcasts faction, which we'll maybe answer later on.
Okay. Oh yeah, we talked about that.
We do have one from Cyrano, or I guess Cyrano.
That's good. That's better than I've ever figured out how to pronounce it.
Yeah, Samoa Joe. I'll take a shot at it. I don't care. I take a running stab at it. Like doom. When in Boar's Head, it's funny because we have like certain products that people just have a hard time pronouncing it, like Gruyere cheese. They like Gruyere,
Yeah.
or Edam cheese, or you know, like supersada. It's like they have no idea how to pronounce those words. You know, Boar's Head likes to be fancy and use, you know, nice little Italian words like superior, superstada.
Because it's
Anyways,
class.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
it is.
classy.
But Cyrano says Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. Is that a great idea for a match, or an awesome idea for a match? So I mean, woo, 6-1, half a dozen to the other.
Right. Cyrano is a longtime supporter of mine, by the way. I always pronounce the name Cyrano because I'm an idiot. Maybe it is pronounced Cyrano. I hope that that's correct because that's really clever if that's the way it is. Anyway,
Yeah, like Cyrano,
like
yeah.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, I would love to see Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. That is a dream match in my mind. I don't know if anybody in the WWE who has the power to make the matches might think that, but to me, Christ, if they called up Samoa Joe from NXT and booked him the right way for a year, just, you know, to get him over as like a fucking beast, and then they put that beast versus the beast Brock Lesnar on a major pay-per-view, I think that would be huge. I think that would be an amazing match. So yeah, I think it would be an awesome match. That's a match that to me that's one of those one match pay-per-view type deals. Like I wouldn't even care what the hell was on the rest of the show. If you give me a well-built match between Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, I'm a happy camper. I don't know. What do you think about that, Doc?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. You got the Samoan submission machine. You know, I mean, he's like everything Taz was, except I don't know, like tenfold. He's cranked up to 10. I mean, Taz was a beast back in the day, and Samoa Joe reminds me a lot of what Taz was, and he emulates him a lot with all the suplexes and everything he did. And he's a fast moving guy. Like, you know, it's like he obviously took some steps from the luchador, man, because that fat boy can fly. And because of that, you've gained and loved this guy from the days in Ring of Honor to his days in TNA. I mean, he has nothing but like mutual respect and support in the wrestling business. And so then you put him up against a guy like Brock Lesnar. Fans are definitely going to be behind that because one, you got, you know, Samoa Joe involved, and with Brock Lesnar, who that is a bonus because he doesn't show his face too often. But yeah, if booked in the right way, that could be a fucking gold mine. Yeah, it's a great idea. Absolutely a great idea. We got a question here from Wrestling Fortune 44. It's a 3-part question.
Ooh.
What do you want to see improve from WWE in 2016?
Basic storytelling. have feuds that begin, have middles, and have ends, and then have the guys move on to other feuds. That's the thing that they're worst at right now. They don't need to improve in terms of like how good the wrestlers are, because they have the roster is just terrific in terms of, you know, workers. But the storytelling is just awful. They need to go back to the basics of just being able to tell a simple story. You know, start a feud between two wrestlers, carry it on for a couple of months, and then have it pay off with a clean, decisive finish, and then they both move on to other stuff. It seems like they have completely forgotten how to do that for the most part. That's why I thought like that program they did a couple months ago, well, like just last month between the Dudley Boyz and the Wyatts was so great because it was just a basic story. It started, it built in a logical fashion, it ended with a blow-off match, and then that was it. You know, that they need to do stuff like that more often, I think.
I think my problem is about to be fixed. It's something I really wanted just a few weeks into the whole thing, is that the Divas cliques would finally disband and start going at each other and treating it more like a Divas division instead of like, you know, a three-on. It was a three-piece Divas division. That was what it was, it seemed to me, with your odd and end, you know, pieces fit in. So it's nice to see that maybe they're taking steps in the right direction. And, well, you know, I think they're definitely taking steps in the right direction. I don't think we're going to be going back to that at this point. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, in 2016, I think we're going to see the Divas division step up a notch because they realized they made a few missteps bringing them in, and it's time to go back to what made them great in NXT. So, Second part was what would his overall opinion on the wrestling product in 2015?
I mean, overall, I guess it was pretty good because I wasn't crazy about the main roster WWE product for the most part. I mean, it had its bright spots and there were some great matches, but in terms of the overall product, I wasn't thrilled with it. But I mean, you have to balance that against I loved NXT. I thought NXT continued to be amazing. NXT to me is the best North American pro wrestling right now by far. Like I mean, you know, I probably like Lucha Underground would be second place, but for me personally, that's way behind NXT. Lucha, but you know, there was Lucha Underground, which was excellent. There was New Japan, which was amazing, and especially if you caught the New Japan stuff that they showed on Access TV, and most of that was from the year before, was from like 2014 as opposed to 2015. But if you got to catch any of it, you know, it was fantastic. So I mean, overall, wrestling I thought in 2015 was excellent. If you could find the really good stuff. It's just for the most part, WWE was just kind of blah, you know. But outside of that, yeah, there was some really, really, really good stuff in 2015.
Well, yeah, you have the king of sports, you know, the WWE, the king of sports entertainment. Of course, they're right there on top. Then they have their second, which, you know, in a real wrestling fans' opinion might be actually number one. But, you know, they had their second, which is NXT Stomping Grounds. You know, they train up the future. You know, it's not same old horse.
Yeah.
So then you have TNA, which I don't even want to talk TNA. It's been having its issues, but it's up there. And again, you have Ring of Honor out there. These are honorable mentions, but we'll never be able to touch at this point what they've developed in NXT. I think that's what WWE did that for. Triple H stepped out, created that secondary promotion, which makes it even harder for any of these other ones to be that second.
That's true.
Yeah, you've had some great things in New Japan. You've had the whole Boom Boom Bullet Club, AJ Styles coming in there. That's been huge news this whole week with the rumor mill that the WWE might be signing some of those guys, which I would be super fucking happy for because, you know, as you know, I'm good friends with Doc. I should say Doc Gallows now. You know, honorable. I keep getting on his shit about stealing my name. I'm like, you know, our initials. I'm Doc Gregory. It's DG. You're Doc Gallows. That's DG. It's gonna someday your mail's gonna come to my house, bitch. Someday your check's gonna come to my house. I'll take that. But no, they've had some great moments over there with the Bullet Club, and that's what I fully expected. You know, that time and time again, these guys are making the wrestling news, and I'm like, the WWE's gonna freaking pick their nose up and look over there again, and these guys are going to be coming over finally. But you know, it's still in the rumor mill, not signed, signed, sealed, and delivered. So don't get your hopes up just yet. Just it hasn't been denied. It's been it's even been on the WWE website. This news has.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as 2015, I enjoyed it. I stayed a huge fan of it. I've been a huge fan of the WWE Network and what they've established there, and added new programming to it. Like Swerve was all right. It's got its moments. You know, I mean, wrestlers know how to kind of play jokes on each other and everything. So, but whatever, that kind of got old. But I was really impressed with Table for Three and some of those other unique original programmings. Yeah, I mean, I think 2015 was a great year for wrestling. I mean, yeah, it had its down moments and stupid moments, and you just wasted my fucking time moments. But that's what wrestling is. I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I've been around and watching it pretty much all my life, and I've been very disappointed many times to let what I've seen in 2015 really affect me from being a fan. So I still think it's a great product. I love wrestling for what it is. I mean, I respect the business. That's why I keep watching.
Absolutely.
Do you think the wrestling business will improve in 2016?
Oh man, I mean, in terms of business, I don't know. In terms of creative, I mean, I think it almost has to in terms of WWE. You know what I mean? Like I think I'll tell you this much. I think it will improve because I think that there are other areas besides WWE that I think are just waiting to catch fire. Like, I think the second season of Lucha Underground has potential to be like a big thing, to be bigger than it was in the first season. I think NXT will continue to grow and become a more prominent brand. You know, they're going to do more touring, I think. They're going to do more live events, which will help them build out their fan base. So maybe it won't be just WWE Network subscribers. It'll be a bigger chunk of the WWE fan base that is getting into NXT. So I think that'll be good. I think New Japan's footprint in North America will probably continue to grow. I mean, there are all kinds of areas where, because we mostly talk about WWE on this show, which makes sense because it is the big dog, you know, it is the top company. But, you know, there are all kinds of other areas outside of WWE in the wrestling business that I think have been doing really well the last couple years in terms of the quality of the product. And it's just a matter of getting more people to notice it and getting more people to watch it. So yeah, I do think 2016 will be a better year for the wrestling business. And who knows, maybe WWE will finally stumble on that fucking one hot angle and they'll commit to it and they'll actually build up a new star like they've almost done a couple times over the last 4 or 5 years, but then have dropped the ball, like with CM Punk or Daniel Bryan. Maybe they'll find that one hot thing, whether it's a wrestler or an angle or a stable or whatever, and you know, it'll kick them off into another boom period. I mean, you never know when that's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point, you know, because that's the way the business works. It's boom and bust. You know, I mean, business was terrible both creatively and financially before Steve Austin came along, and you know, it's been kind of shitty and creatively for a while, but you know, you never know when that's going to change. So, I mean, hopefully this will be the year when that turns around. We'll see.
Well, I fully expect 2016 to be a great year for wrestling because you can expect people to be called up. We've had many call-ups in 2015, which has already made the product better when they have that moment to shine. Some of them had a moment to shine to introduce them, and then all of a sudden the spotlight kind of faded on them, which was a shame. But yeah, I mean, you can expect people like Finn Balor to be called up and Samoa Joe to be called up. I mean, these guys, if they're not on the fucking main roster by freaking WrestleMania, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Or right after WrestleMania, they get called up. They can prove that they can hang with the big boys. Especially people who have been around the business as long as these guys have, you know. I mean, fuck. I mean, Samoa Joe. If you look, you can find footage of Samoa Joe wrestling as a jobber in the WWE. So he worked for them before. So yeah, I fully expect 2016 to be a fabulous year for wrestling. We should probably get into the show because I might change my tune because I don't know if we're starting off like 2016 with a good move. So let's get on with this.
Yeah, let's talk about the first Raw of 2016. It took place this past Monday, of course, on January 4th, which was also the day of New Japan's annual Super Show. I haven't seen this year's New Japan January 4th show, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was probably better than this week's episode of Raw. I'm just going to guess. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, Raw this week was live from San Antonio, Texas, and it began with a promo. First, Stephanie McMahon comes out, but before Steph can even get like halfway down the ramp, her entrance music is interrupted by the entrance music of Roman Reigns, because I guess Roman paid off the AV guy to play his music and interrupt Steph. Which means
I want that job. That's the job I want. I mean, it can be that easy to get your music to play out, and if you're getting a bribe or something like that, I mean, I take it.
Yeah,
I want that job.
And apparently the crew is more willing to stand up to the authority than the wrestlers are, because the wrestlers like never fuck with the authority. But apparently, you know, if Roman slips $20 in some guy in the production truck's pocket, he'll get his music played when Steph walks up. Anyway,
it is a mum's the word back there. You know, it's like if there's 6 of us and none of us own up to it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we would then we can get away with it because then they have to hire a whole new cast.
That's true. That would be a great angle. Have Steph like go out to the production truck and kick in the door and go, "Who played Reigns' music?" And everybody's like, "I don't know. I didn't see who did it. Did you guys see
I think it was a technical glitch.
Yeah, you know what? One of us must have just leaned on the board. It was accidental. Sorry. But yeah, so they make it to the ring, and Roman says that they don't need Stephanie out here. It's not about her. And he calls out Vince instead. And Steph says, well, you know, Vince isn't here. She says, get used to disappointment. Vince isn't here yet. He'll be here in time for the title match tonight because, of course, Vince is the special referee for the world title match tonight in tonight's main event. That was announced last week on Raw. But as long as they're out there, Roman says, well, if you want to screw with me, if you want to try to take this WWE title away from me, you better think again because this WWE title enables me to make a living and provide for my family. And backstage, Kevin Owens is going, that sounds familiar.
Oh, my God. I was thinking the same thing.
But anyway.
Kevin Owens is going to kick your ass for saying that.
Yeah, really. And Roman says, so basically he says, this world title is my livelihood and nobody's going to take it from me. And Steph says, well, don't worry, Roman, because even after you lose the WWE title, you're still going to have a job. I'm not going to fire you. I'm going to use you up just like Vince used up your father. And eventually the fans are just going to get tired of you and they're going to move on and they're just going to cheer for somebody else. And that's just the way it's going to be. And Roman says, well, you remember this. The next time your dad tries to screw with me like he tried to screw with me before, you're not going to have to pick him up from the police station because those of you who watched Raw last week know that Vince was arrested for really no reason. But anyway, he was arrested last week. That was the big angle. And Roman says, next time you're not going to have to pick him up from the police station. You're going to have to pick him up from the hospital, which is a pretty good ending line to finish off this promo. It would have made more sense if Roman had anything to do with Vince being arrested last week, which of course he didn't. Roman just kind of stood there while Vince got himself arrested because he was an idiot and mouthed off to the cops. But anyway, yeah, that's it. So Vince is the special ref tonight. He's not there yet, but he's on his way. And Roman's doing the Kevin Owens gimmick and saying, I'm not going to lose the title because it allows me to provide for my family. So I actually didn't think that this opening segment was that terrible in terms of performance. It didn't expose Roman too much because he didn't really have to say a whole lot. And what he did say, despite not being terribly original, was at least well done. And I thought his button at the end of, you know, you're going to have to pick him up from the hospital next time was a good way to sort of underline it and finish it off. But what did you think of this opening interview, Doc?
Well, you know, I'm wondering how backstage figure out how to mellow out the boos coming from the crowd and amp up the cheers because and really correct me if I'm wrong, that the cheers coming from Roman Reigns from the crowd to me sound really, really young.
I think so. I think you're right.
Which is fine. Kids need heroes because they don't know the business and don't respect it as much, and they don't really know about it as much, so they tend to honor the heroes like that. Yeah. So that's all good. And Roman Reigns is built for that. If he can be that John Cena, granted, he comes out there, he does that. Yeah, I mean, it was great. I'm still not 100% behind Roman Reigns. I'm not that guy. We had comments on our YouTube channel about people like to see me getting pissed off about, the rise of the Roman Empire, but I'm just not a Roman Reigns fan, I mean, I see moments of shine coming, and he's getting there. Granted, I mean, it just takes some time. I just think he's still been thrust on me before he was ready.
Yeah.
And yeah, anybody can get up there and go through the shtick of, now I'm going to beat up your husband, and now I'm going to argue with you, and now you send out your dad, your 70-year-old fucking dad who still thinks he can go full force in the fucking wrestling ring, and he looks great and all, but still, yeah, send him out. I'm going to punk him out too, just to get me over. I got to get through all that, beat up, just harass a woman and beat up your husband and beat up your father and whatever. I mean, I'm just not impressed with Roman Reigns and the way they got him over as champion there. That's a really weak way of pushing him for me.
You hit on a really good point too, which is one of the things that I think makes the push for Roman so frustrating for a lot of us, especially if we're like a longtime fan of the show, is that it's not that Roman is bad. It's that he's clearly not ready. And they've been trying to get him ready for like 2 years now. And he's still not ready. But they're going with him. They're saying, fuck it, Roman's going to be the guy. He's the champion. He's going to be the top babyface. Fuck it. And the reason why that feels wrong is that they're pushing a guy who is clearly still not ready as the new top guy when they have a roster of people there. You could think of probably half a dozen people who would be a better fit for that spot right now than Roman Reigns would be. And granted, some of them are injured. Like you can't say Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins is injured. You can't say Cesaro because Cesaro is injured. But in a perfect world, if you're looking for a new top baby face and you've got guys like Cesaro or Ambrose or Rusev or
especially right now when you have WWE has been really known for looking at what's going on in the world, tapping into it, and then playing their storylines to it. So we have tensions with Russia and over there in that area. So why not throw fucking Rusev into the big picture, blow his ass up, so you can make a huge storyline that plays on current people's emotions?
Yeah, you can even go beyond the people that I already named. I mean, they have guys like Ziggler, who has been floating around doing nothing for years. Yeah, which is probably the best thing for him at this point because the babyface thing is just killing him. But they have a roster full of guys who, with a few months of build, could be just as ready for that top spot as Roman is right now. And yet they're determined to go with Roman, even though, as we've said, even after trying to make him all these years, he still just is clearly not ready to be that guy. That's the frustrating part. And it's nothing against Roman personally, because I honestly do think he's trying. I don't think he's going out and just sleepwalking through it, even though sometimes it feels like that's what he's doing. I just think he's trying his best, but maybe he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the quality that guys like The Rock or Austin had, where they're just that they're going to be stars. That as soon as they take the governor off of a guy like Austin or Rock or Punk or even Daniel Bryan, who isn't the most charismatic guy on the microphone, but in the ring, I mean, you can just tell, like, if they would let this guy run, this guy is going to be a huge fucking star. And I just don't get that from Roman. I get that from Rollins. I get that from Ambrose. I think, oh man, if they would just let these guys go, these guys would be fucking humongous stars. But I don't get that from Roman. And I never really have. And it doesn't help that they put him in situations where he's supposed to be the hero and he's supposed to be the champion, but either he acts like a heel or he doesn't do anything important. That was the problem with that Vince getting arrested angle last week, was that Roman Reigns was there as the champion, as the hero, as the top babyface, and he did almost nothing in that segment. It was all about Vince McMahon being an asshole and getting himself arrested. And then Roman kind of sort of comes out this week and sort of takes credit for it, even though he didn't do anything. He just sat there and laughed while Vince talked himself into jail. So that doesn't help. That kind of thing doesn't help him either. So maybe that's why a lot of us are sort of frustrated with the Roman Reigns push, because he's obviously a guy who's not ready. He's not being used properly. And there's a bunch of guys below him who would be just as good, if not better, for that role. Well, speaking of Kevin Owens is in the next match. Kevin Owens comes out, and boy, he must have heard Roman rip off his gimmick in that promo, because Kevin is pissed. He's pissed off, and he takes it out on Neville, and Dean Ambrose is on commentary as well, because Ambrose and Owens are feuding for the Intercontinental title still. So Owens comes out and takes on Neville, and this is actually, I thought, a really good match, and I thought that Ambrose did as good on guest commentary as anybody could probably do, because I'm still not crazy about that guest commentator gimmick. I think they do that way too much. I think it usually just distracts from the match. But Ambrose did pretty good with it and actually tried to focus most of his comments on the match and on Owens instead of talking about just random shit that had nothing to do with anything, which a lot of guest commentators seem to do for some reason. And it's a good match. Owens wins with the pop-up power bomb, but Neville looks pretty good in defeat. You know, he doesn't just, it's not just a squash. Neville doesn't come out looking bad. And then after the match, Owens tries to put some more of a beating on Neville, but Ambrose gets up and interferes, dives on Owens through the ropes, and they brawl around the ring, and it ends up with Ambrose putting Owens on the announce table and elbow dropping him through the table, which I thought was pretty cool, and the crowd seemed to really dig it. It was a good segment, I thought. I'm worried if they can maintain this level of intensity until they get to the blow-off match. But for right now, I thought it was really good. And this was probably one of the best segments on the whole show for me. What'd you think?
Well, I'm not going to say it was my favorite match of the night, but it was certainly a great matchup. Neville comes out of nowhere and pins Kevin Owens. What a shock. And I'm sure it came as a shock to you that happened. But it did. And, of course, Neville comes out. We don't want to make him look weak, so he performs very strongly during with Kevin Owens. Of course, we have Dean Ambrose sitting at ringside and doing, yes, like you said, the annoying guest commentating bit, but doing a good job, mentioning not only about his feud with Kevin Owens, but pointing out that, stuff that Neville's doing, like say, I'm not built for that. I can't do that. The things that Neville's doing or anything like that. So, but I do have to make a mental note for like the roll up. You know how you're getting tired of the roll up?
Yeah.
For a finish. I'm also getting a little bit tired of the diving out onto people segment.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's happening a lot during matches, and that is getting annoying to me. Everybody seems to be doing that these days. If you want to do it during like a random multi-tag team match where everybody flies, then that's kind of a neat thing. But during every match, it's getting a little bit monotonous. And yeah, of course, Kevin, he's pissed because he won. Has to come back and beat up Neville a little bit more, and Dean Ambrose. And you saw him. If you're looking across the camera, because it's coming. I'm looking across the ring where Dean Ambrose is sitting. Yeah. And he stands up like, I gotta go, guys. And you see him whip off his jacket and come over there and barely hit him.
That's true, yeah.
And he takes him over to the table and he plants him in there. Turns it around, because he almost got it, but he turns it around and throws Kevin Owens on there, and then that table goes, oh. And you saw it. The table, he throws the fucking monitors out. He puts Kevin Owens on the table, goes like down like a half inch. You're like, oh shit.
Oh man, keep it together, table.
Which I thought that's maybe why Dean Ambrose kind of improvised. I thought maybe he was going to go for dirty deeds on the table, but I thought at that moment he saw the table like kind of give a little bit that he shouldn't add his weight onto it at that moment. Yeah. So I thought that's why he, was looking around and finally went to the wall and did his elbow. But yeah, I mean, it worked out great. I mean, a good matchup. Not my favorite, but great matchup.
Yeah, probably not my favorite match of the night, but in terms of an overall segment, I really liked it. And again, like the crowd was really into it, which, that's really important. Having a crowd, having a live crowd, even when you're watching it on TV, if you can tell that the live crowd is really into it, like that can definitely affect your enjoyment of the show. Well, let's talk about very quickly. They did a backstage segment where Vince arrives and he's met by JoJo, and JoJo's like, "What you doing, Vince?" And Vince is like, well, last week I got arrested, but I got out and all the charges have been dropped because I'm rich and I have a good lawyer. That's almost literally exactly what he says. And he says, and last week I broke the law, but this week, because I'm the special referee, I am the law. So there you go. There's your Vince has arrived. I don't know why they do these arrival segments. I mean, doesn't everybody pretty much know that everybody's at the building hours before the show starts? Is anybody watching TV, even like the markiest mark in the world, is anybody really watching the show going, wow, Vince McMahon just got there? Everybody knows that Vince is there all fucking day, right?
What I really want to know is how can you have charges dropped and then less than 7 days later admit to guilt
Yes.
on national television
Yeah.
and not be rearrested.
Yeah, I know. Like the cops in New York are like, wait, did he just admit that he did it? Next time they do a Madison Square Garden show, they're gonna jump there. You know, they're gonna be knocking on his dressing room door.
Pay attention to what we say, writers.
Yeah, really. Pay attention to your own show. Okay, so next is a match between Titus O'Neil and Stardust. It's a short match, so it was too short really to be that bad or that good. It was about 4 minutes long. Not terrible, but not anything that will make you jump out of your seat. And just to remind you guys, this feud between Titus and Stardust, which has been kind of simmering for the last few weeks, is over Titus wanting Stardust to change his gimmick for some reason. I have no idea why Titus O'Neil gives a single shit whether Cody Rhodes is Stardust or Cody Rhodes. But that's what this is about. Titus is like, I don't like the fact that he's Stardust. He should go back to being Cody Rhodes. I don't give a fuck. I don't know why Titus would give a shit, but that's what this is about. And Titus wins this match with his finish. So, you know, and they did a couple of spots where the fans were chanting Cody and Stardust was getting like aggravated by it and distracted by it, which built into the finish. So I assume that eventually this is going to lead to him going back to being Cody at some point. So he can wear different gear while they don't push him. I guess that'll be the final outcome. Instead of not pushing Stardust, they cannot push Cody Rhodes. But what do you think of this, Doc?
Well, I think to myself, what an inspiration of Titus O'Neil, who, yes, might have been Father of the Year. I mean, yes, kudos to you. You have kids and you're good to those kids. Right on. But then he gets in the ring and he preaches to Cody Rhodes. I should know better than you. You're Stardust, which honestly probably could be a good gimmick, but it's not a good gimmick. You should change that gimmick because I know better. Because I'm getting such a huge push myself, so take it from me. I should give you advice, Stardust. And while I'm at it, let me kick your ass.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's like, yeah, that's a good point too that you just brought up that I didn't even think of. I love Titus. I think Titus is under pushed, but honestly, who the fuck is Titus O'Neil to be giving Cody Rhodes advice on his gimmick? Because
exactly.
I mean, Titus hasn't gone anywhere, So yeah, the whole thing is it just feels random. It just feels like, okay, Stardust isn't doing anything. Titus isn't doing anything. We'll just throw them together. What are they fighting over? Fuck, I don't know. Titus doesn't like the Stardust gimmick. Okay, sure. Like it just doesn't make any sense. It feels thrown together and random. Next match is a Divas match. It is Becky Lynch versus Charlotte. Again, it feels like all they do is fight each other lately. And they're fighting each other on SmackDown again this week too.
But there's a twist.
Yes, there is a twist. Yes, indeed. So this is Becky versus Charlotte. It's non-title. And Becky wins with a roll-up, my favorite finish. But there was a twist on that too, because at least she got the roll-up and she also grabbed the tights. And the story there was Becky was sort of giving Charlotte a taste of her own medicine, because when they wrestled a couple weeks ago on Raw, Charlotte won by having Rick distract the referee, and then Charlotte rolled up Becky and held the tights and got the pin that way. And it was like, oh, how could you do this to me, Charlotte? We're friends and you cheated to win. And Charlotte was like, I did what I had to do to get the W, So now Becky's given Charlotte a taste of her own medicine. And it was a pretty good match. I liked the match. I thought the crowd was into it. I thought both women did a good job. And even though I'm not a fan of the roll up as a finish, and I don't like building to a title match by having a champion drop a clean pin in a non-title match, and both of those things happened in this match. If I can overlook that, I thought it was a good match. And then at the end, Charlotte finally completes her heel turn that has been sort of smoldering for the last couple of weeks and breaks bad on Becky, attacks her and spears her, and puts her down while Ric Flair looks on and woos and approves very much that his daughter has finally gone full on heel against Becky. So there you go. What do you think of this one, Doc?
Turn to the dark side, and as father and daughter, we can rule the world of wrestling. Woo! Yeah. I mean, it's the ladies, man. I mean, I love Becky Lynch. I think she's a little bit dry, a little bit rough around the edges, but it, just needs a little light shined on her, I guess.
Yeah.
I would love her to take Sheamus's side. Really, I think that's a good little kickstart, but you have to turn heel, and oops, during this feud, we've already turned Charlotte heel, which is a smart move. It's about time. And that Charlotte takes that her turn to the dark side, joins her father as one of the Flair clan, and goes toe to toe, proving that I'm going to make the Divas division exactly what my father made the men's division, or you might think of the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't give a shit what World Heavyweight Championship you think of, whether it's the NWA, the WCW, the AWA, the Smoky Mountain, the WWF, or the WWE, or the CPW, the Elite Heavyweight Championship, the IPE, the whatever championship you think of. Whatever heavyweight champion you ever had, you're always gonna know. And you're always going to say that Ric Flair is the greatest world heavyweight champion of all time. And Charlotte's going to do the same thing to the women's division. Becky Lynch is going to be a great, great adversary. And it's going to be a great set of matches. I mean, we've just seen that. We've only seen two of them. We're going to see a lot more. Hopefully, we can see something a little bit more special than we saw, but it was brilliant. I love the way this story's going.
Yeah, me too. I really like it too. It's another case of just building a story with a very simple, logical progression. Charlotte starts to show a little bit of heelish tendency in the first match with Becky and cheats a little bit to win. Becky comes back and sort of gives her a taste of her own medicine, and Charlotte can't handle that and attacks her because that's what a heel would do. A heel doesn't like being given a taste of his own medicine. A heel doesn't say, "Oh yeah, you got me. A heel goes, "What the fuck was that?" and attacks you because, heels are hypocritical. If you do to a heel what a heel does to you, it's not fair because that's how heels work. That's how heels think. And Charlotte is.
And the only two teams I want to see on the Diva side are the Bella Twins and Cameron and Tamina Banks, because they're related. Let's split up Sasha and the rest of the fucking. Let's just shed off the rest of them and make it a great Divas division.
Yeah, I agree. And Charlotte is much better as a heel than a babyface anyway. I just think, I mean, during her time in NXT, she eventually got to that point where she never officially turned babyface again, but she was sort of like the respected sort of in between babyface and heel. But when she was a heel and she had that nice long run as Divas champion, or as women's champion, I should say, in NXT, that to me is like the best role for her. Like a badass heel champion. Charlotte is perfect for that.
Yeah, she's a fucking Flair. That's exactly what Rick was. It's like, whether he was a heel or a babyface. If he was a heel, you still fucking loved him. If you were a fan of Ric Flair,
absolutely,
you respected the shit out of him. That's why you loved him, whether he was a heel or babyface.
Yep, absolutely. And Charlotte is really good for that role. Next is it looked like it's going to be a match between Ryback and Big Show. Turned out not so much. Ryback and Big Show exchange a couple of moves. Ryback gets thrown to the outside. And then here come the Wyatt family. And the Wyatts, first they swarm all over Ryback and they attack him and beat him down. And the crowd doesn't really give a shit about any of that. But then they turn on Big Show. And all of a sudden, the crowd starts to wake up a little. And they're like, hey, we're tired of Big Show. Are they going to beat up Big Show? Because the please retire thing has been one of the crowd's favorite things to chant. And every time, it's almost like every time Big Show comes out, they start yelling, please retire at him. So the Wyatts get in the ring, and Big Show takes them all out except for Braun, and they have a face-off between Big Show and Braun Strowman, where you can see that they're exactly the same height. And the crowd actually gets a little excited for that when they see the two of them facing off, the tease of those two guys, facing off against each other. But it doesn't really happen, which is probably smart because I bet that would be terrible. The Wyatts jump back in and they beat down Big Show and they take him out. And then Bray announces that they're all going to be in the Royal Rumble and they're going to be the last one standing. And he says, we are war, death, and pestilence. And I say in my notes, Bray talks a good game, as always, but can he and his stable continue to back it up in the ring against opponents that actually matter, because if not, then none of this matters. You know, you can have them come out and beat up guys in the middle of matches and, cut badass sounding promos. But if they lose the big match on pay-per-view, which up until last month was what they always did, then it doesn't matter. So hopefully they have some big plans for these guys at the Rumble. I can't imagine Bray is going to win the Rumble, but I hope they at least have some story for the Wyatt family to take part in during the Rumble match that will allow them to look impressive and look dangerous and maybe eliminate a bunch of people and look like a serious threat. Because otherwise, like, this is all just a waste of time. What do you think?
Well, yeah, useless match. Let's skip past that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future here. Yes, I see potential in the Braun Strowman and Big Show match, and let's look forward into the future for the Royal Rumble. I see Braun Strowman in the Royal Rumble. I see the Big Show in the Royal Rumble. I see now at this point, Big Show has turned for the 20th time into the new babyface again. But Braun Strowman and Big Show both, because they're big guys, so they're going to be menacing in the Royal Rumble. So you want to get rid of them. But they'll eliminate each other, which will lead to a future match. If it's please retire, and maybe Big Show's thinking about retiring, I mean, it could lead to a retirement match at WrestleMania, with Big Show finally being the baby face and maybe getting some his comeuppance and everything. So that's a possibility. But with the elimination of Braun Strowman and the Big Show in the Royal Rumble, then your weakest link, of course, is Luke Harper. Not Luke Harper. I'm sorry, Eric Rowan.
Eric, yeah.
And he'll go down at drop of a dime. And then all you have to worry about is Bray Wyatt and Luke. That's a tag team. So I think the numbers would overwhelm them eventually. So I don't think the Wyatt family would be much of a threat. I think like I said, Big Show and Strowman will probably eliminate each other, which will set up a future matchup, maybe at WrestleMania, between those two at least, because it was impressive. It was fucking impressive when Strowman stepped up to the Big Show. I mean, that doesn't happen often.
And the crowd seemed to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, if they want to do like you described at the Rumble, where they eliminate each other, or maybe one eliminates one, and then they do the Sid Vicious thing that he did to Hogan, where like maybe Big Show eliminates Braun Strowman, and then Strowman reaches back through the ropes and pulls Big Show out.
The rest of Wyatt pushes him over as Strowman's holding on to him.
Yeah, and then if they want to, they could do, if they want to add the retirement stipulation, do Braun versus Big Show at WrestleMania, put it in the middle of the show, book it to go 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, and then have a nice retirement angle for Big Show afterwards, where he can sort of wave to the fans and cry and say goodbye. There's nothing that would be completely acceptable.
That's 4 ideas given to you by Wrestling with Wrestling.
So feel free to use any of those.
Sure.
It's one more reason for people to watch WrestleMania, All right. So next is a tag team match. It is the team of Rusev and Alberto Del Rio.
Rusev and Alberto Del Rio.
Wow, that was. And we could call them the rolled R connection. Rusev and Del Rio. And they are wrestling the Usos, and they defeat the Usos because Alberto Del Rio hits Jay with his double stomp gimmick and pins him. I wrote in my notes here, if the League of Nations, if they're actually serious about keeping the League of Nations around as a group for a while, they're going to have to eventually pick 2 of them to be a tag team, because that's usually how, 4-man groups work. You have 2 of them who are sort of the singles guys, and then 2 of them come together to form a tag team. That just makes sense. And I guess if they want to do Rusev and Alberto as a tag team, that would probably work. I would, like you probably would, Doc. I'd rather see them commit to Sheamus and Barrett as a tag team. I think those 2 would be a great tag team. And Alberto still has the U.S. title, so I don't know. I guess if they want to have him and Rusev become like a team, they're going to have to get that U.S. title off of him at some point. And this was I think the longest match of the night, and it was a good match. It felt like filler you know, because it was kind of, there wasn't really an issue in the match. But it was good. You know, it was good work by everybody all around. And again, like if they want to put together a team from the League of Nations, and especially if creative doesn't really have anything at this point for Rusev or Del Rio, I mean, fuck, put them in a tag team. See how that goes, you know? What'd you think?
Well, you know, I had been on vacation from wrestling. I really hadn't watched a whole lot because I've been busy and doing things and planning things. But I tried to kind of catch up as much as I could. I have like 4 weeks of wrestling still saved in my DVR. But then I jumped back into it and I saw this and I thought that this was a great fucking tag team matchup. I love the way it worked. I love the way we had the close calls, and I love Alberto Del Rio's finish. It looked freaking devastating. And you know, it's just fucking overrated. We already got a Simone being pushed. We don't need you guys, you know. And yeah, you're right. I mean, they've already made comparisons to the League of Nations being like a four horseman type of clique. And with that comes, you know, a tag team like, you know, Tully and Oli or Oli and Arn or Tully and Arn, Brainbusters.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I love the tag team of Alberto Del Rio and fucking Rusev. So I think it works. You got the guy who's very technical, high flying, you know, and the guy who is also very fast, high flying, and more brutal. He's got the power behind him. So I think this is a really strong freaking team. And yeah, you're right. I do like Sheamus and Barrett. I've always been a fan of those guys. But you know, this is kind of the same thing. You've got guys from other countries joining forces. It's kind of the same rub, but I kind of like the whole European type of rub between Barrett and Sheamus.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. If you think about it, Rusev and Alberto are a pretty good combination because, like you said, you know, you have the quicker, more technical guy, more submission based type of wrestler with Alberto, and then you have Rusev, who's, you know, no slouch in terms of quickness. He's quick for his size, but he's also like kind of the big, strong bull, you know. And there have been quite a few tag teams in the past that have been built on that formula, where there's a technical guy and kind of a strong guy, you know, and that there's no reason why that couldn't work.
Yeah, the Fart Foundation.
Exactly, the Fart Foundation. Okay, next is a match between Heath Slater and Dolph Ziggler that ends with my favorite finish, a roll-up and a handful of tights, which we already saw in the Divas match. I don't know why they booked the exact same finish for two matches on the same show. But anyway, Heath pins Dolph with a roll-up and a handful of tights, and Heath is there with his friends who are going to form this new group called the Outcasts, the Social Outcasts, and it's Heath Slater, Curtis Axel, Bo Dallas, and Adam Rose, also known as We Still Work Here. The creative forgot about us, but we still work here. And this really, I mean, I like all of the guys in this group. I think all of the guys in this group deserve better than they have gotten over the last couple years, as does Ziggler, by the way. But this really feels like it was just something that was thrown together. It was just, you know, throwing a bunch of random guys into a group and saying, fuck it, we got nothing else. Do something with this. And maybe the guys in the group are talented enough and determined enough to get it over. And hopefully they'll have enough time that they could do that. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, I don't really see anything here. It just seems like four random guys thrown into a group. Like, I can't think of a reason based on what we've seen from them so far why, you know, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas would want to hang out together. I don't get it, you know, but it could work. We'll see. You know, stranger things have happened. Sometimes some of the best things are the random things that you never would think. Like, who would have thought that Tyson Kidd and Cesaro would turn out to be an awesome tag team? But they did, you know? So maybe this will be another situation like that. What'd you think?
I think they threw it on fucking TV. Now it's too late. You're absolutely right. It was something that was thrown together. It felt like that. It was dry. Their fucking promos were horrible. And of course they wanted to really point out that these guys are the kings of social media. They've all of them been doing cryptic messages all day, all four of them. But I wasn't really impressed by anybody or any of their speeches or whatever. The more thing The most shocking part of this whole part was that fucking Heath Slater just beat Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, Dolph Ziggler has a hard time, but Heath Slater just beat you. and I understand it was shady circumstances that made it happen, but still, the aftermath of why it happened did not pay off. It was a dud. You will not be able to sell this. I mean, you got one turd in a bowl. It's not going to sell if you put 4 turds in the bowl. It's still fucking 4 turds in a bowl. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I love, yeah, you're right. I love these guys, but as far as what the WWE wants from them, they're not going to get it. And as far as the WWE could possibly write for them, they certainly don't fucking get it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, with the 4 turds in a bowl. I mean, they've told us through the way that these guys have been booked for the last couple years, really, that all 4 of these guys are losers. So putting 4 losers together doesn't make them any less losers. It's a group of 4 losers. And I don't get the story. I don't get the reason that they're together, other than creative has nothing else for them and they just threw them together. I mean,
sorry,
maybe they'll make something out of it, but not yet.
I'm sorry, Heath. Your hometown's really close to us, so I'm very sorry.
I love Heath. Heath is great.
Too.
I mean, yeah, it's nothing personal against the 4 guys. It
was a horrible match.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Heath Slater, when it comes to WWE, when it comes to the standards of a WWE matchup, that matchup he had with Dolph Ziggler, and I've seen some great matchups out of Dolph Ziggler, was a fucking dud.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't a good match. No, yeah, I agree. This was probably the worst segment of the whole show.
There's a reason why. I'm sorry, but there is a reason why Heath Slater is not a superstar.
Yeah, he's never going to be. I don't think he's ever going to be a main event guy. But I mean, he's decent enough in the ring, and he's a good enough talker that he could be something. But at this point, I mean, but it's another case of, you know, they give him little bits and pieces of things over the last couple months that just never pay off. You know, they did that thing over the summer where he would try to cash in the US Open Challenge against Cena. They did it like for a month straight, where Cena would say, you want some, come get some, and Heath Slater would come out, and then somebody else would come out and screw him out of it and take the title shot instead. And then that just went nowhere. Mm-hmm. That never paid off. You would think that the payoff would eventually be Heath gets the title shot. That never happened. It never paid off. It just disappeared.
You keep Doink the Clown, and no one will ever take you seriously. And I'm talking to you, Santina Morella.
Yeah.
And when I say Doink the Clown, I don't mean keep Doink the Clown, but when you keep Doink a Clown,
yeah,
eventually no one will take him seriously.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah. So, but they could turn it around. Who knows? The guys in the next segment managed to turn what started out as a really shitty gimmick around, and I'm talking about the New Day. They were horrible baby faces, and then they turned heel, and they became awesome heels, and now they're one of my favorite parts of the show. The New Day comes out to cut a promo. They make fun of that viral video of Mike Tyson falling on his ass off a hoverboard. And
I think somebody could have done it better. I think somebody could have done it better than Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier did. He did.
That was more Jay Leno, though.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, right. And his bump didn't really. He didn't take much of a bump off of that hoverboard. He just kind of fell on his ass. Because Mike, when you see that video, Mike Tyson fucking goes down.
Well, that's a natural fall. Mike
he's not taking a bump. He's like, I mean, he fucking hits his ass on the floor. But anyway, so they make fun of Mike Tyson on the hoverboard. And then Chris Jericho interrupts. They promise that they have a gift for the crowd, and they start a countdown, but then their countdown is interrupted by Chris Jericho's countdown. And Jericho comes out and he says, just like on Raw back when he debuted in WWE in 1999, he is here to save the show and to save the company from low pay-per-view buy rates and declining ratings and blah, blah, blah. And the New Day say, we already saved Raw, so you don't need to save it. And they have a back and forth with Jericho. Jericho says he's back and he's entered the Royal Rumble and he's going to win and he's going to main event WrestleMania again and nothing will ever be the same again. I thought that Jericho and New Day both did okay for their parts on the microphone. I think they almost made this work. This felt kind of awkwardly laid out. Like, it just didn't feel like there was any reason why Jericho and New Day should be fighting each other other than the countdown gimmick, which seemed a little contrived. I mean, if Jericho is back, at least for a run between now and WrestleMania, that kind of makes sense because they do need talent on top. They're awfully thin on top. And they're thin in the middle too, with guys like Cesaro and Rollins being injured. So, you know, having Jericho back, and Jericho, you can tell, like, he hinted at this a little bit when he wrestled Neville in the Japan show over the summer as well. That he's kind of talking as though he's reaching the end. You know, he's talking about, I'm back here. I'm back here where I started my career, or I remember the first time I was in this building, or blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of things that people say when they're winding up their career. And Jericho has sounded like that a couple of times in his promos the last few times he's been on WWE TV. So maybe he's gearing up for like a last run. And if they do that right, that could be good too. So I have no idea what they're doing. I'm pretty sure Jericho's not going to win the Royal Rumble. So I don't know, you know, that's not going to be where this goes. But, and I don't imagine he'll have a whole lot to do with the New Day after this either. It didn't seem like this was to set up like a feud between Jericho and the New Day. It was just to get Jericho on TV. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm getting a little tired of the Ayatollah of really Ola. I mean, the shit has been sold. I bought it, and I'm tired of it. You know, I don't play that game anymore. Yes, the New Day certainly is the flavor of the week, and I don't know. I don't think Jericho really should have made his entrance here. Yeah. I think that was a bad timing thing. Who cares? I think that Royal Rumble deserves its moments of surprise. You were merely just a few weeks away from it. Is he going to wrestle or on any of the other shows? Or is he just going to wrestle the Royal Rumble? I mean, is he going to be on SmackDown this Thursday on the USA Network? So don't miss it. It's got a new home. But no, is he going to wrestle on any of those programs, on any of the live shows, or is he just going to be at the Royal Rumble? Because if that's the case, then he should have just saved that as a surprise. Especially because, I don't know, the Royal Rumble has a countdown. And the fact that he actually took a stab at reality here, where he's like, WWE is having a ratings issue, and I'm the guy that's going to save it. I don't think so, Chris Jericho. I mean, yeah, you can still put on a good match, but
yeah,
why don't you go full force against Neville and see what you can do? Why don't you go just test yourself there and see what you can still handle?
Yeah, you know,
so, shining that Royal Rumble, I think that's all we're going to get out of him.
Yeah, that's a good point. He might have been better. I mean, because is just the fact that Chris Jericho is going to be in the match really going to up the views of Royal Rumble? Probably not. But having him come out as a surprise might have been at least kind of cool, even though they do that kind of thing all the time. Even that is sort of played out. I thought it was interesting too, because he redid his promo from 1999 when he debuted, talking about the declining ratings and the drop, you know, the low buy rates and low live event attendance. The funny part is, when Jericho said that in 99, it wasn't true, because the product was red hot, and it was Jericho being an arrogant heel coming out there and saying, I'm going to save the company, when really, if you think about it, the company didn't need saving at that time. It was having really a big year and a really great business. So that was Jericho being a jerk back then and being a delusional heel, saying, you guys need me to save you. But now when he comes out and says the exact same thing, it's all true. Ratings are in the toilet. Pay-per-view buy rates are in the toilet, you know, and unfortunately it's going to take more than Chris Jericho coming around to fix. So, you know, maybe somebody should have said, you know what, do a different promo. Like everybody loves your debut. Everybody loves, the countdown gets to 0 and oh my God, it's Chris Jericho. And you had your little tete-a-tete with The Rock. Like everybody loves that. That's one of the greatest debuts ever, but maybe cut a different promo this time. Cause all the shit you said back then, now it's going to be true. And
yeah, I mean, I would really appreciate it if you never really cut that promo ever. Good. I'll do it.
That's going to be when that's when you know that that Jericho's too old.
Jerichoholic.
He starts coughing like a Jerichoholic. It's like when Ric Flair tries to do the bridge up.
He's gonna turn into Rufus.
So that was Chris Jericho and the New Day. The next segment is a match. It's a 6-man, all 3 members of the New Day versus the Dudley Boyz and Kalisto. And Kalisto is here on his own because Sin Cara is hurt. He separated his shoulder last week, so he's out for a little bit. So they're throwing Kalisto in there by himself with the Dudleys. This was a good match. I really liked this match. This was probably my favorite match of the night, I think. And the ending was Big E getting the pin on Devon with the big ending. So the tag team champions win. It was a good match. I think it was solid work from everybody. I thought Bubba did a good job here, particularly. You can really tell that Bubba Ray is the veteran and sort of the ring general because he did a good job sort of keeping things moving and doing little things to keep the fans into the match, which is something that not everybody does, but everybody should do.
Psychology.
Yeah, and Bubba's great at that. And Kalisto, I thought, came off really well. Kalisto got to showcase his stuff, and he didn't take the pin. Devon took the pin, so he didn't really suffer from this loss. I thought it was a good match. What do you think?
It comes to my second favorite match of the night. I'm a huge tag team fan.
Yeah.
So I have to go. This one ranks up there. Great 6-man. I would have loved to see some titles on the line here. With the freebird rule in play, maybe at least maybe to play out time while Sin Cara is out. Maybe you could have ran with that or something like this, at least to hold off on it. But the New Day is way too hot. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get the Dudleys. It doesn't matter if you fucking reincarnated the Road Warriors or whatever tag team from past or any hottest tag team of the past. It doesn't matter. New Day has got it right now. When they get in there and they do that unicorn stomp, it is so signature. Bam, bam, bam. That they are certainly heels, but are ready to just swing so easily over to being baby faces because the fans are behind them time and time and time and time and time again. So I don't know why they keep just holding out on it. They could be a huge tag team. I'm getting on WWE ShopZone.com right now to buy my New Day t-shirt. You should too. On WWE ShopZone.com. Go there now and buy a New Day t-shirt.
Yeah, I still think they're the best part of the show. I mean, they might not be the best part of the show every single week, but on average, I mean, whenever the New Day's music hits, I start smiling. I think it's nice to see them. I mean, they're good in the ring. They have good stuff when they do their double team stuff, and I love that unicorn stomp thing. I think that's terrific. And they're good talkers. They sound like they're actually speaking from their own mouths when they talk instead of reading a script. They seem comfortable on camera, comfortable in the ring, comfortable with each other, confident when they're playing off the crowd. I mean, they're just terrific, And the problem is that they're heels, and there aren't any strong babyface tag teams to challenge them. I mean, and I know maybe they were hoping the Lucha Dragons would take that spot. Now it's kind of on hold because Sin Cara is out, but they really need to be thinking about building up a really good babyface tag team so that New Day can have a match at WrestleMania.
The villains.
Yeah, exactly. Call somebody up from NXT. Call them up right now. Call them up, have them debut like the night after the Rumble, whether it's the Vaudevillains or Enzo and Cass or Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, or I mean, pick a babyface tag team from NXT, have them debut on Raw the night after the Rumble, and start building them right away. So they don't lose a fucking match between then and WrestleMania. So you can have WrestleMania have a match between New Day and whoever those guys are.
I would say bring up the Vaudevillains, because if you cut Enzo and Cass right now, and they are fucking hot down in NXT, but you cut them, then you've really cut the legs out from under the tag team division.
That's true.
Vaudevillains has lost some heat. You can bring them up right now.
That's a good point. Yeah, Vaudevillains aren't really doing anything in NXT right now, and they'd be fine. They would work well with New Day because they're kind of a funny gimmick too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, you're right. That'd be a good call. There's another free idea for you, WWE. All right, now here's the main event. Vince McMahon comes out in his cut-off referee shirt. He shows us his peaks, his 70-year-old biceps. And I know I'm not one to talk because I'm about as pale as Sheamus, but Vince needs a tan. Vince is looking like, it makes him look like even more of an old man when he comes out and he's fucking pale as like fresh fallen snow. I mean,
if I could look like that at 70, I'll take it. If I'm still alive at 70, I'd take it.
Oh yeah, he looks great. He's obviously still in shape. You know, he moves around the ring pretty good during this match when he's doing his referee thing.
What a dick.
He's like Jack LaLanne. It's special referee Jack LaLanne.
He pulls that ring in by his teeth.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Come on, man. He's doing jumping jacks. Yeah, that's who this is. It's Vince is turning slowly into Jack LaLanne. So of course it's Roman versus Sheamus with Vince as the special referee, and they do the whole deal where they do their entrances first, and then Lillian does the introductions in the ring, which I love when they do that. It makes it feel like a big match. I noticed that she had to kind of get out from behind Vince to start doing her intro. Vince was kind of blocking her when she was starting to do the intro, and she had to sort of swerve around him, be like, "Excuse me, Vince, I have to do this." But as for this match itself, I gotta say, I was not a fan of this match. I was not a fan of this match much at all. And I don't fault Roman and Sheamus for it. I think they do the best they can in this match. And they even pull out some nice spots. Like I especially like the spot. And it's sad because it was a spot right before one of my least favorite parts of the match. When toward the end, when Sheamus comes in right after it's close to the actual finish. But it's where Sheamus comes in from outside the ring and he bro kicks Roman, and then he bro kicks him again, like right away, like 1-2, boom, boom, bro kicks him twice. I thought that was a great spot. But then the booking comes in and fucking ruins everything. The low point of this match for me was when Roman Superman punches Vince and knocks him out, and then turns right around and spears Sheamus and goes for the pin when he just knocked the referee fucking unconscious 5 seconds before. Is Roman Reigns really supposed to be this stupid? Because he didn't he pinned him, he held Sheamus's leg and pinned him like he expected there to be a count. He knows there's not going to be a count. He just knocked the fucking referee unconscious. How stupid is Roman Reigns supposed to be? And then there was another, probably an even more embarrassing spot in terms of the guys working when Vince is knocked out, or he's supposed to be knocked out, and Sheamus gets that bro kick spot on Roman, and then Vince starts to move to count the fall, and then he remembers that he's supposed to be unconscious, so he just kind of stops and lays back down, and then Scott Armstrong comes out as the replacement referee to count the fall. Just fucking horrible. It's a terrible timing from Vince there. And then
Scott Armstrong?
Yeah, it was Scott Armstrong, and then
Christ, I was watching it. I was watching it at 3 a.m. this morning. Like I told you, I thought it was Skip Finlay for a second.
Yeah. It was Scott Armstrong, and then Roman knocks him out and spears Sheamus again, and then John Cone comes in, referee number 3, and finally counts the finish 1, 2, 3. So Roman wins finally. I wonder, was all this really necessary if the finish was just going to be Roman beating Sheamus again?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work to get to Roman beats Sheamus when Roman's already beaten Sheamus a whole bunch of times. And then after the match, Vince gets on the mic and he gets his revenge by saying that Roman is going to defend the title at the Royal Rumble.
Dum, dum, dum.
In the Royal Rumble. So Roman Reigns, the WWE champion, is going to be in the Royal Rumble, and the match is going to be for the title, which is the first time they've ever done that. They did the Rumble for the title back in '92 when the title was vacant, and Flair won it, but they've never done the gimmick where the champion is in the match with the title on the line. So that's what they're going to do. And I figure, you know what? They don't really have any heels to challenge him right now because I think we're pretty much done with him fighting Sheamus. So what the fuck? It's a way to have a title match on pay-per-view when you don't really have a ready heel challenger. So, let's go for it. So there you go. What'd you think of this match? What'd you think of the idea of putting the title on the line in the Rumble? What are your thoughts on this whole deal, Doc?
What a waste of time it was for me to watch this matchup. Yep. Sheamus, once he knocked out Mr. McMahon and called on a second referee. And why did not that second referee who finally come running down? What was his name again?
The last guy? Cone. John Cone.
Yeah. When he come running down, why didn't he come running down in the first place and get the fucking 3 count? Instead, we had to consider the whole shit of the guy who I thought was Fit Finlay, which would have made sense in a referee in a referee outfit because he was helping Sheamus.
Hey. No, Irish people stick together.
That's right. So and he works backstage.
Yeah.
So it would have made sense, and I don't know. My mind once I thought it was Fit Finlay, and then I saw the relationship, and my mind just convinced me, yeah, that's Fit Finlay. So I'm thankful that you said it was Scott Armstrong. So sorry, Scott, if you watch this show. Sorry, didn't even know it was you, bro. But yeah, what a waste of time. And on top of that, you completely have damaged, in my mind, the one last pay-per-view that you have that was special to me. I mean, when you won that thing, you earned an opportunity, and there is a history of that. And people have gone on to become legends in this business by winning the Royal Rumble. It's the start, and instead you throw that away. Change it up. I mean, it to me doesn't matter anymore. I don't care. I mean, do I feel good that maybe Roman Reigns will lose his championship? I mean, yeah, I guess maybe that would feel nice, but at this point, I'm feeling that he's overcoming all these obstacles. That's what you need to do to make him the champion that you want him to become. And so you're forcing that upon us. So to throw him into the Royal Rumble, put his championship on the line, where's your money gonna lie? I mean,
yeah,
really. I mean, the Royal Rumble's not here yet, and I'm already thinking, Roman Reigns is gonna win that too. And it's a shame because now we know that no surprise wrestler, not like you have any really. I mean, you do, but not like you're you know how to write for them anyway. So fuck it, but yeah, I mean, you get my fucking pain when it comes to this. It's bullshit. Royal Rumble was one of my favorite fucking pay-per-views, and you've already spoiled it before I could even fucking watch it.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, if they go the logical route and have Roman lose and have whoever wins the Rumble win the title, and then I guess they build to Roman facing whoever that is for the title at Mania. I assume that's the plan. I assume that they have somebody else win the Rumble, maybe Brock. Maybe Brock wins the Rumble and wins the title, and then you do Roman versus Brock 2 for WrestleMania. Maybe they could do Cena. They could do Cena versus Brock. I don't know what they're going to do, or Cena versus Roman. I mean, whatever they're going to do. Somehow Roman is going to lose the title at the Rumble, and then he's going to win it back at WrestleMania. That's my guess. If I could, estimate, if I could forecast what they're going to do. But the problem is we've already seen that. We've seen that exact same story already. Roman won the title at Survivor Series, in the tournament and got screwed out of it, and then chased Sheamus, albeit not a very long chase, just a couple weeks, but still he chased Sheamus, and then he won the title. And now they're getting ready to do the exact same story, except it won't be losing it after a tournament. It'll be losing it in the Royal Rumble, but it's still going to be Roman loses the title, and then he chases the champion and wins it back. And like you said a couple weeks ago, Doc, they've already blown the opportunity to have Roman get the first win at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was going to be the big moment. The big moment, the visual was going to be Roman wins his first world title, and he wins it as the babyface in the last match at WrestleMania, and he holds up the belt and the confetti and the balloons and everything. Like that was the moment. And they already did that. They blew that. So that's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen again, but it won't feel as special because they've already done it. And that seems to be the best that they can do right now. And that's disappointing, you know, because it seems like their best shot for Roman at WrestleMania is to just redo what they just did with him. And that's kind of shitty. And you're right. It diminishes the Rumble too, because it basically feels like they're using the Rumble to fill in for the fact that they don't have a good opponent for Roman Reigns right now. They have nothing else to do with Roman. They can't do anything else with him in terms of the Vince trying to screw him over storyline, because there's no other challenger they could throw in there that would be good. So they're saying, fuck, we'll just put him in the Rumble, put the belt on the line in the Rumble. And I agree with you. I think it makes the Rumble feel less important, you know?
Yeah, because if I was the fucking McMahons and I really didn't like my fucking champion, and I owned the goddamn company, you know what I would do? I wouldn't even book him. I'd keep him fucking home. I wouldn't put him on a fucking plane to send him to the arena. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't put him on fucking television or do anything. I would bury his fucking ass if I didn't like him. I mean, really, what rationality? It's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something that occurred to me when I was watching the main event for this show too, was if it had been booked a little more intelligently, they could have had referee Vince declare before the match that the title would change hands on disqualification. Mm-hmm. So if Roman put his hands on him, then Roman would not only lose the match, but would lose his title. So that would take away that opportunity, because in this match, and in this match at the end of this episode of Raw we've been talking about, Roman just blatantly knocks out the referee. Like, it's not an accident. It's not a mistiming. Like, Roman turns around and intentionally punches out the referee.
He deserved it.
And yeah, he deserved it. He deserved it. But Roman punches out the referee. And if Vince had said ahead of time, if you get disqualified, you lose the title, so don't even think about putting your hands on me, then to me, that takes something away from Roman. And that creates a greater amount of tension, because, you know, Vince obviously is biased in favor of Sheamus. Vince is obviously fast counting Sheamus and slow counting Roman, right? But Roman can't do anything about it, because if he touches Vince, he'll get disqualified and he'll lose his title.
Well, see, that's when if he lays hands on Vince, that's when you send Dean Ambrose down to interfere.
Yeah, there you go,
good buddy. You know, your alternative plan.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know. I was not thrilled with this match. The gimmick of having Roman defend the title in the Rumble feels like a desperation move. Feels like just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And I'm just not. I'm not happy really about it either. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. Doc, would you like to spend the last several minutes of our show telling our fine viewers about a legend of the week, perhaps?
I would love to tell you about our legends of the week.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was going to go with New Jack, but we're going to save him for another month. You know, we have February coming up, and I don't want to, you know, seem like I'm saving a black wrestler for February, but it is hard to find one that is notable to talk about.
Yeah, sadly, that's true. Sad but true.
We've been doing this show this is the third year going, I believe. We're starting our third year now doing this. But yeah, let's talk about Here Comes the Axe, and Here Comes the Smasher, the Demolition. let's talk about those guys, man. And Bill Eadie, fucking known as Axe, was the first. I've talked about it before. The first superstar who has made it and performed on a WrestleMania stage that put his hands on me. Although it got better than that when Lalani Kai beat the shit out of me, because she performed at WrestleMania 1. But let's see. Randy Colley and Bill Eadie created the Demolition gimmick and worked for the World Wrestling Federation. They debuted as a heel tag team on January 17, 1987 edition of Superstars alongside manager Luscious Johnny V, defeating the team of Salvatore Balomi and Mario Mancini. The tag team resembled Lord Humongous of the 1981 film Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, with the face paint of Hard Rocker's Kiss. Demolition wore studded black leather outfits and leather-covered hockey masks to the ring, which they removed to reveal face paint, usually made up of some combination of black, white, red, or silver colors, though other colors were actually included sometimes. After only a few matches, Colley was replaced with Barry Darsow in a match that aired on the February 14, 1987 edition of Superstars. In an RF video shoot interview with Eadie and Darsow, Eadie claimed that Colley was replaced because he was recognizable to the fans as the man who previously performed as Moondog Rex. The WWF pitched a few potential replacements to Eadie, but he felt fans would recognize the suggested replacements. Eadie felt that many WWE fans would not recognize Darsow, who had been working for Jim Crockett Promotions as Khrushchev alongside Nikita Koloff. Darsow left Crockett following a dispute in order to take over the role of Smash. On the March 14th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, Demolition participated in a battle royal won by Hercules Hernandez. Demolition became known for their aggressive style in the ring and the way they dominated their matches. Their first feud was with the tag team of Ken Patera and Billy Jack Haynes, which started with Axe and Smash brutalizing WWF jobber Brady Boone, billed in storyline as the cousin of Billy Jack Haynes. They did this during a television match. Demolition claimed victories over all of the established face tag teams in the WWF at the time, including the Killer Bees, the Rougeau Brothers, British Bulldogs, the Young Stallions, the Islanders, and the Can-Am Connection. Around the same period, Johnny Valiant, who left not too long afterwards, sold their contracts to Mr. Fuji, who became their manager. Demolition made their pay-per-view debut at Survivor Series in an elimination tag team match where 5 babyface teams. Oh my God, these were the fucking days of wrestling. I'm sorry. It was a 5 babyface team facing off against 5 heel teams in a Survivor Series match. It was fucking awesome. Demolition was part of the heel group. They were disqualified for shoving down referee Dave Hebner during the match, and the face team went on to win the match. At WrestleMania 4, Axe and Smash defeated Strike Force to win their first WWF Tag Team Championship. Do you remember how that happened, though?
I don't.
Oh, my God.
I'm blanking.
That's when Rick walked the fuck off.
Oh, that's right. That's when, yeah. When they turned, yeah.
Yeah, that's when Rick walked off and became the model.
Yeah.
That's when they won their first WWF Tag Team Championship. Axe struck Martel in the back of the neck with Fuji's cane while he had Smash in the Boston Crab. Martel was knocked out and Smash covered him for the pin. Oh, while Axe hid outside the cane. I was mistaken. As champions, they defeated a number of the top tag teams of the WWF, which at the time had a very talent-rich and honest and hotly contested tag division, most notably the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. Their first big challenge came in summer of 1988 when the Powers of Pain entered the WWF and challenged them for the Tag Team Championship. During the elimination tag team match at Survivor Series of 1988, Mr. Fuji attacked Demolition and joined forces with the Power of Pain. And a double turn took place as Demolition turned face, while the Powers of Pain turned heel. When Demolition defeated the Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji in a tag team handicap match at WrestleMania 5 to retain the WWF Tag Team Championship when they caught Mr. Fuji in the Demolition decapitation. Prior to this, Axe and Smash also memorably squared off against each other as entrants as number 1 and number 2 in the Royal Rumble match at the Summit in Houston in 1989. Oh, the Royal Rumble. I was talking about that. Fond memories of the Royal Rumble. It was good. Uh, Tearing into each other for the full 2 minutes before being joined in the ring by the third entrant, Andre the Giant, where they once again joined as Demolition and targeted the big man. At WrestleMania 5, Demolition started a feud with Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, who were the members of the heel stable of the Heenan family, led by none other than Bobby the Brain Heenan. On the May 27th, 1989 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, the Brainbusters defeated Demolition by disqualification. Demolition became the longest reigning WWF Tag Team Champions after breaking the record of the Valiant Brothers and lasting a reign of 478 days. They finally dropped the titles to the Brainbusters in a 2 out of 3 falls match on July 29th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. Demolition started a feud with Andre the Giant and Twin Towers, which were Akeem and the Big Boss Man. At SummerSlam 1989, King Duggan and Demolition defeated Andre and the Twin Towers in a 6-man tag team match where Darso showcased his strength by body slamming both of the Twin Towers. Demolition focused on regaining the tag team titles and restarted their feud with the Brainbusters. On November 4th edition of Superstars, Demolition defeated the Brainbusters to regain their tag team titles and win their second WWF Tag Team Championship. Demolition next feuded with the new Heenan family team, the Colossal Connection, which was Andre the Giant and Haku. On a December 30th edition of Superstars, Demolition lost the tag team titles to the Colossal Connection. At WrestleMania 6 at the Skydome in Toronto, Demolition defeated the Colossal Connection to regain the titles and win their third and final WWF Tag Team Championship, and finally put an end to their feud with the Heenan family. Due to his deteriorating physical condition, Andre never tagged in during the match with Haku facing Demolition on his own. So just pay attention to that if you want to go back and check. Andre never tagged in. After WrestleMania 6, Demolition quietly turned heel for the first time since 1988. This intensified when Bryan Adams debuted in WWF and joined the team as Crush. In kayfabe, it was claimed that this was a heinous scheme to gain a 3-on-2 advantage on other teams, but it was actually because Edie had developed an allergy to shellfish, which hospitalized him, and WWF owner and head booker Vince McMahon wanted to add a third member to the team in case the illness put Edie out of action for an extended period of time. Crush Jr. took a more active role, teaming with Smash, while Axe faded into the background, becoming more of a manager. At this time, Demolition used the Freebird rule to allow any two members to wrestle the matches. Smash and Crush defended the titles in the summer of 1990. On the July 28th edition of Saturday Night's main event, Smash and Crush defeated the Rockers to retain the titles after Axe interfered on their behalf and attacked Michaels. The next month on SummerSlam, however, Demolition lost the titles to the Hart Foundation in a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. In that match, Smash and Crush started, but Axe secretly came down later on to substitute himself into the match behind the referee's back. Ultimately, the Legion of Doom, who had signed with the WWF a month earlier, interfered and snuffed out the deception. Demolition never recaptured the titles after this loss. Soon after, due to the Legion of Doom joining the WWF roster, Demolition's popularity began to decline. As a result of their interference of LOD, Demolition began feuding with Hawk and Animal, who would also be joined in six-man matches by reigning WWF champion, The Ultimate Warrior. On the October 13th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, Axe, Smash, and Crush lost to The Ultimate Warrior and LOD. On November 10th episode of Superstars of Wrestling, Demolition reunited with Mr. Fuji when they helped Fuji and the Orient Express assault the Legion of Doom. And at the Survivor Series, the Perfect Team, which was Demolition and along with Demolition and Mr. Perfect, defeated the Ultimate Warriors, who had Kerry Von Erich, all that bullshit with him. Shortly after, Axe left the WWF with the on-air explanation being in order from kayfabe WWF President Jack Tunney that there could only be 2 members of Demolition. Smash and Crush were the 2 remaining members and went on to primarily lose to teams as the Rockers and the Legion of Doom. The team lost a match to Generico Tenryu and Koju Kato at WrestleMania 7. But at this point, let's skip down here. At this point, yeah, the Demolition was pretty much done their WWF career. They've gone on to do some great things. You know, after, like I said, after Demolition had their run, I worked with Bill and CPW several times as superstar under the mask, and as acts from Demolition. They've done a lot of reuniting here in the later years for some shows and from autograph signings, conventions. So Demolition's still out there. So just take a look. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about them because they're probably one of the out of the '90s, late '80s, early '90s, probably one of the strongest tag teams, and certainly record holding one of the strongest tag teams there ever was in WWE, WWF, whatever.
Yeah, and if anyone watching this is like a younger wrestling fan and you don't remember like the late 80s or the early 90s, it's difficult to explain what an awesome tag team Demolition was. I mean, when they were heels or when they were baby faces, and that was at a time when, like you said in your summary there, Doc, the tag team division was just awesome. The tag team division was stacked. There were so many awesome tag teams. Both in terms of good workers and in terms of just tag teams that were over, that people just loved or hated or cared about somehow. I mean, it's really amazing to look at the tag team division in the company now and compare it to how it was back then. And it's just night and day. I mean, Demolition was on top in the tag team division when that really meant something. And they were a great team. They were so fucking cool. They were just the coolest. And I mean, a lot of people compared them to the Legion of Doom, which is an obvious comparison to make. And I guess if you were an NWA fan, you probably preferred LOD, the Road Warriors, because they were there first and they were sort of the big badass, tough guy, strongman tag team who dominated and no sold and were sort of like the badasses. But Demolition yeah, and Demolition were very similar, but they were sort of the WWF's version of that. And if you were primarily a WWF fan, as I was at that time when I was 9-10 years old, I mostly watched WWF. And I mean, Demolition were the shit. They were it. And when they turned babyface, it was awesome. When they beat Haku and Andre at WrestleMania 6 and won their last tag team championship, like that was like a big deal. It was a really great moment. And they were an awesome team. I mean, they were just an awesome team. So if you're old enough to remember Demolition, you probably know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, it's hard to describe. It's hard to imagine tag teams being that big of a deal in the WWE because they're just not anymore. But at one time they were. And during that period in the late 80s and early 90s, Demolition were the top tag team. And that was a big deal at that time.
Yeah, my recommendation to you on the WWE Network would be, if you don't know who Demolition is, go look them up, do a search for Demolition. If you do know who Demolition is, go to the WWE Network and search Demolition and watch yourself a great Demolition matchup, just to refresh your memory of how great these guys work together. I will be posting a matchup from these guys to our Facebook page later on today. That's at Facebook, Wrestling with Wrestling. Look it up.
Yep. And that spot you mentioned where they were the first two entries in the Royal Rumble, that's probably my favorite spot ever in a Royal Rumble.
It's awesome.
Perfect. It was just perfect.
No one has ever done that better.
No.
Guys right there. That was fucking...
It was so cool. It was so cool. It got over the every man for himself part of the Rumble, and it showed fans something that they could never have seen in any other context, because you were never going to see Axe and Smash fight each other in any other situation other than that. And it was just awesome. Well, that's it, everybody. We are done. We are back in our regular schedule for the next little while, back from the holidays, back to start a new year of Wrestling with Wrestling. So we will be with you every single week, probably, hopefully, barring interruptions, unscheduled interruptions, probably between now and WrestleMania. So we're going to be following the road to the Royal Rumble and then the road to WrestleMania. It'll be fun, hopefully. So as Doc said, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling with wrestling. You can interact with us there. You can check out videos and pictures and news stories that we post there from time to time. And it's a great way to keep in touch with us when we're not doing the show. Please leave a comment on this video. Ask us a question that we can answer next time. We love to start the show by answering your questions. So leave us a question or suggest a topic for us to talk about. And Doc usually picks 2 or 3 or 4 of those at the beginning of the show. And that's how we like to open the show. So please let us hear from you. And that's it. We're done.
Yep. Thanks for watching. As always, you know, hey, if you can, support this guy up here, man. He makes better videos than this Wrestling with Wrestling show. You should check out the rest of this channel. You know, so check out Steve Shives, man. The guy is inspiring, and become a patron and donate to him, man. Help this guy out. He can make better videos, man. Someday he might actually get around to making this one better.
Hey, fuck yeah. And thank you for your support. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.